It's been a minute since the last time we reviewed a subcompact crossover from Suzuki. So long, in fact, that the Jimny now has 5 doors, the Desire is all grown up, and the Ertiga now has a mild hybrid system. The thing about subcompact crossovers is that they can cover a wide demographic, from family-oriented buyers to young professionals to lifestyle-oriented weekend getaway artists. So now that we've proven that the 2026 Suzuki Fronx can go the distance for a lot of used causes, we want to know if it will go the distance on this episode of Behind the Wheel. It can keep the Jimny company, if priced well, with a lot of goodies. That is what we said during our first impressions of the Suzuki Fronx. Now that we've driven it and tested it, we've got something to say about that. But first, its price. Whip out the AutoDeal app, available of course on iOS and Android, and it's absolutely free. And it'll tell you that the Fronx comes in this top-tier model at 1,299,000 Philippine pesos. Before we continue with the Fronx, I'd like to address the thousands upon thousands of people that have already downloaded the AutoDeal app. Here's a small tip. Don't settle for the first quote. Wait for the other quotes to come in. Don't be a rush. Be the king or the queen. Wait for all those quotes to come in so that you can pick which one suits you best, so that you can get the best car at the best price. The Jimny, well, it's got so much clout and following that it could price itself from here to the moon and people would still buy it. The Fronx, on the other hand, well, it's a new nameplate and a new price tag, so people are still looking for it to prove itself. But that's just the name on its own, because at 1.3 million Philippine pesos, you're already getting the most advanced Suzuki as of filming. It starts with the engine. Now, Suzuki's integrated starter generator, which is responsible for the mild hybrid system, is nothing new. You've got a 1.5-liter gasoline engine that produces 99 horses and 137 Newton meters of torque, mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. That 6-speed automatic is new, but the general setup of this is familiar to those that know Suzuki's because it's like the Ertiga, the XL7, and the Desire. It's that mild hybrid system that helps cement Suzuki as an extremely fuel-efficient car. For instance, we put this car in the hands of, well, a family man, a weekend warrior getaway artist, and a young professional. And we were able to still get 14 kilometers per liter in the city and 22 on the highway. What's even more impressive is that we were able to achieve that when the car was fully loaded. The exterior of the Fronx is Suzuki's most daring design to date. In photos, it looks bigger than it actually is. Hashtag same. But it also exudes a sense of class and dignity about it. Also, hashtag same. You've got LEDs in front, a nice silver garnish on the blacked out grille, a false skid plate, and a little nub here that tells you it's got a 360-degree camera. On its side, you have blacked out 16-inch wheels wrapped in 195 60 series tires. Ground clearance is a healthy 170 millimeters. The Fronx also features cladding down its side with a silver garnish, repeaters on the black mirror, and a blacked-out roof. Oh, and silver roof rails. The rear is home to a set of taillights which stretches out the entire length of the car. Okay, so not really a stretch, more like it reaches to the other side of the car. Again, it has design elements that make it look bigger than it actually is. Hashtag same. Like a nice little spoiler at the back, and again, with that false skid plate in silver. Open her up, and it will reveal a little over 300 liters of space, which is good enough for overnight items and because it's pretty deep. It isn't, however, big enough to fit a balikbayan box in there, no. But if you fold the 60/40 seats, you can squeeze in a pair of balikbayan boxes on the rear rests. But it does have quite a lip to put the balikbayan boxes back there, and this lip in here also makes carrying heavier items a bit of an issue because you can't just slide it in. So the first thing that I want to mention here at the rear seats, and I know this is going to sound kind of rich, but you do sit kind of tall. Look at me. I feel like I'm back in a high chair. Earl is dying of laughter behind the camera right now. Leg room is still pretty darn good. That's a lot of space. That's my normal driving position. But yet even for my height, the headroom is nothing to shout about, really. So anyone a little bit taller than me might be like skimming the top already. The space is decent for two passengers, and I'd leave it at that. A third might be a bit of an issue because shoulder room is a bit restricted, right? And you don't want to block the air vents, which is directly up front, but we'll get to toys a little bit later. I also want to point out that the seats, although they're a bit on the flat side, they are quite comfortable because you are sitting quite high up. The thigh support is good, and there's minimal bolstering, so getting in and out of the car is quite easy. Also, to the fact that it's a mix of fall leather and cloth where it matters. Cloth where it matters because when the car gets a little bit dicey, you want to make sure that your butt stays in one place. Now to the toys, you do have a few back here, the important bits I might add. You have two air vents directly up front, and underneath that, two charging points in the form of Type A and Type C, and a small little cubby hole right underneath that. Bottle holders on either doors, and of course speakers. No center armrest, but hey, that is good enough. Now the space back here might look cramped. Just try and remember, this is, after all, a subcompact. Obviously, up front is where it's going to be at. And we gotta say that it's a pretty loungy, good-feeling cabin because Suzuki has this theme that it's black over brown, which continues throughout the entire cabin along with the seats. Speaking of seats, these seats, I've gotta say, are probably the most comfortable seats in a Suzuki that I've ever been in. And if you've ever sat in a Jimny, you know what I'm talking about, right? These are definitely much more comfortable. You've got a lot of driver assist systems in here, but don't allow me. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, first, your instrument cluster. You have two analog gauges that flank a digital trip computer in the center, which is quite common when you see it in other Suzuki models as well. The infotainment is a 9-inch touchscreen with a 360 view. Obviously, we've shown you the cameras around the car. And it also does this little dance that every time you fire up, all the cameras activate to show you a 360 view before you set off to make sure that there is nothing impeding your drive. Below that, you have your controls for your air, immediate controls to your air, so you can get to that right away. The audio controls are just underneath the infotainment screen. They may not be physical controls like the buttons on your air, but at least you can get to them immediately. Underneath that, you have a 12-volt socket and a USB port to plug in your phone for your Apple Android and Apple CarPlay. Underneath that, you have a wireless charger, your gear lever, manual parking brake, and a small little, what do you call this? Armrest that actually extends. It's like the difference between Earl and me. No, Earl, not naman like that. I meant height. Head out of the gutter, bro. Out of the gutter. The steering wheel wrapped in leather with buttons for your audio controls on the left side, your right side as your cruise control, and then some functions for your phone and your driver assist also underneath, or rather right below the steering wheel. On the left side, you've got a myriad of buttons that are also driver assist systems, including the button for your automatic start-stop function. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows because there are two things that Earl and I pointed out that we wish were available in this car. First, power seats. Yes, granted, I do understand the price tag, but at that price, we were kind of hoping that it would be a premium touch that you could put inside the car. Could we live without it? Yes, we could. I don't think it's that big of an issue. One issue that we have, though, is the fact that the steering wheel only tilts. It doesn't move.
It was out the whole time. We didn't even know.
I'd like to add that it's a first for Suzuki. There is a heads-up display that pops out. You see everything there so you don't get distracted and take your eyes off the road, so you're laser focused on everything. That's very, very cool. If there is just one thing that Earl and I pointed out that we wish we would have had inside this car, would be power seats. It's not a deal breaker at all, no. And we understand that it's weight saving and cost saving at that point. But you're already paying 1.3 million Philippine pesos. Power seats, even just for the driver, would have been a really nice touch. However, we are going to go out now to talk about just exactly how that engine and the hybrid system feels. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel because we're trying to prove that cheese is just a loaf of milk.
Huh?
Okay, maybe not. How about bologna is like hot dog pancakes?
How about speed sensing door locks?
Oh yeah, there's that too. There are no speed sensing door locks in this car, or for most Suzukis for that matter. I don't get it. What we want to start off is say that when you jump into a Suzuki, there is a general acceptance or expectation that you have when you drive a Suzuki car, and none of that has changed. Whether it's the ease of driving, it's the lightness of the steering, it's the compact size of the car, being able to maneuver around city traffic or out on the highway. It's generally an easy drive to be had, and that's one thing that hasn't changed in any Suzuki automobile. We're just whelmed because you are talking about just 99 horses and 137 Newton meters of torque. So when it comes to overtaking, you have to take the approach that you have to look ahead and plan it. Now, sure, the mild hybrid system helps, for sure, but you have to remember that it's tuned for efficiency, not exactly brute power. The Fronx carries itself quite nicely. The dynamics of the car are very good, whether you're inside the tight streets of the city or, again, around twisty roads. And it's doing this also on economical tires. Now, when you factor in the fact of that you've got economical tires and ground clearance, and you're still driving it pretty spiritedly, but with a lot of safety and a lot of assurance behind the wheel, well, that's a win. There is one particular trait that I found, which was, I think it's more of a learning curve really, rather than a caveat. Because when you're going downhill and you've got a little freewheel going on, if you apply the brakes ever so gently, it automatically engine brakes. It catches and it starts slowing down. It's something that catches you a bit off guard if you're not used to it. Again, it's just a learning curve. And at the same time, when you're in traffic and you're coasting at about 20 or 30 kilometers per hour, I found that the car sometimes fishes for a gear. It doesn't know whether to go to a higher gear or a lower gear. Again, it's not exactly a deal breaker. It's just something that you will want to get used to. Another highlight of the Fronx is its advanced driver assist systems, which includes adaptive cruise. Yep, you heard me say it right. I know you guys know that I am not a fan of adaptive cruise, and yet here in this model I am, because of two things. Number one, this is Suzuki's first outing with adaptive cruise in our market. Second is the fact that they're doing it properly right off the bat. It's their first outing, and it doesn't seem like we've had any growing pains during our time testing it. It seems like it's working great. And there, have you tried the adaptive cruise of this, Earl?
Yep.
This is their first time.
First try.
Another highlight is the fact that the NVH inside the Fronx has dramatically surpassed all other Suzukis in the sense that it's quieter and more refined in here than all of their other products here available in the country. You purchased this car for its ease of use and versatility, granted, but I was kind of hoping that there would be a little bit more power inside this vehicle because it's just built so well. It's solid inside and out and feels good to the touch that you're kind of wanting more power. I will say this though, in the absence of more power, what it does do, it sounds really great because when you floor it, it's got a really good grunt to it. Suzuki's return to the subcompact segment is something that we were expecting. The price, size, and value of the segment is just too difficult to ignore. There are many brands out there, just like Suzuki, that have made a name for themselves on this segment alone. Now, considering that, the Fronx checks a lot of those boxes, mainly because it's from a Japanese brand. The amount of tech and features it has puts up with the rest of the competition out there, and it's stupid easy to drive. Granted, it's not the most exciting drive out there. No, it's not. But if you're looking for a subcompact vehicle that can be a small family vehicle or can be a weekend warrior getaway car or a young professional's car, the Fronx might be worth taking a look at.